Hi Gina.
Hi Ione. Hi everyone. I'm Gina, the senior editor of Polyester.
And I'm Ione, the founding editor-in-chief of Polyester, and this is the Polyester Podcast, a feminist pop culture podcast dissecting the discourse on a weekly basis.
Before we start, if you're a fan of this podcast, please make sure to like, rate, subscribe and review. And if you really love us, you can sign up for a podcast membership where you can join our WhatsApp chat, get access to our research each week, and get on our Instagram close friends for only £3 a month. We also now have a Substack called Non-Threatening Boys, *, where we'll be sharing exclusive podcast episodes once a month on the Boy of the Hour. Do we have any reviews, Ione?
We do. 5 stars, a podcast for the girlies. I love the way the girls dissect pop theories and films. It's a very personal and fun podcast to listen to. And then they says, the only suggestion I would have is to have all the ad breaks at the start or the end of the podcast, but we do the break now.
We do the break now.
Thanks, girlies, with loads of cute emojis by Georgie S in the UK. And we also have a new print zine out. You forgot.
We have a new print zine out. If there's any still for sale by today,
go get them.
Get them now. Get them hot. Get them ready. And if you're a member, you get it for free.
Yeah, if you're well, not a podcast member though. You have to be bronze.
Bronze, silver, or gold members.
Yeah. So today we're talking about.
You think you just fell out of the coconut tree?
Kamala. Mamala.
Mamala, Ione's favourite word of the day.
It's such an intrusive thought that going through my head all day is just, you have to be Mamala for the country.
Who said that to her?
Drew Barrymore, obviously. And she visibly hated it so much. I saw a tweet that was like, this is the most relatable thing a politician's ever done, because she just looks like...
visibly disturbed.
Yeah, and she's trying not to.
Right, so why are we talking about that?
So if you have been living under a rock, everyone probably knows that Joe Biden has stepped down as the Democrat Party's presidential candidate, and everyone is saying that Kamala is going to be the nominated politician. I don't think she has been yet.
No, so they've got to do like a democratic vote. Mm-hmm. Well, not like the Democratic Party has to do a vote for who they want to put forward as like their running candidate for the presidential election. Mm-hmm. And Biden endorsed it on his tweet, which is crazy that he resigned with a tweet. But he did.
I bet Elon loves that.
I think it's just mental. Like, I was thinking about it last night when we were like, after we discussed doing this for the podcast, and I was like, people used to like give statements to the press, like, and now you can just, why are the president of the United States notes apping it?
Yeah, I know.
Anyway. But, yeah, so she has to pass that. But when he did do his resignation, notes app, he was like, I'm backing Kamala. So that it seems very likely that they will run with it, especially considering what we're talking about today, the memeification of her as a political figure.
Yeah, because in the days since this happened, and it happened on Sunday night, right? I think.
Fucking hell, it feels like it was
ages ago. It feels like it's been 10,000 years. The Kamala memes have just like taken hold really, really quickly. Like, obviously she was memed a lot pre this, but like the way in which her campaign has picked it up and it's kind of all going bananas has been so quick. Like, I remember in our Monday meeting, I was like, oh, we could do Kamala memes as the pod thing, and we were like, don't know, not sure on the angle, blah, 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 blah. And then it just went mental.
Literally by yesterday, not 24 hours later, we were like, no, we really need to discuss this.
Yeah, so what kind of like took hold to make this such a like prescient topic, is that a right word?
Yeah.
Is Charlie XCX tweeted, Kamala is, with is in capital letters, Brat.
Embarrassing.
Kamala is Brat, which like encouraged an onslaught of memes being like, Brat summer is over, Brat summer is over, blah 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 blah. And then Kamala, like the campaign Instagram account, and Kamala Harris followed Charlie XCX, and then they changed all of their branding to like Brat Green, which, as we know, has already happened in the UK because the Green Party did it. And then since then, it's just kind of been like an absolute landslide of like memes. It's been on CNN where they were having like a discussion. On CNN, they pulled in like a Gen Z correspondent to talk about the Kamala is Brat tweet and Brat summer. And then obviously like more left-leaning people are being like, Brat summer is over. Oh my God, Charlie, how dare you? And then other people are being like, it was obviously ironic. And then other people are being like, why are you going to Charlie XCX for your political, like to be a good person politically? And it's all just gone. And then everyone's being like, if you are sharing a Kamala meme, you are like the worst, like
you're
type of
complicit in
neoliberal.
genocide, you're complicit in, what's the word, the cop state, like you're complicit in XYZ, which is mad.
Yeah, so some of the things is like, there's a tweet from Evermore Rush, which I bet is a Taylor Swift account, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I was born in the right generation. I love Trump's ear memes and Kesha times Kamala Harris. And it's like a Photoshop of Kamala as a Kesha album cover. And then there's like so many memes of being like, do you want to explain some of them, G?
Just like getting more and more unhinged, like doing a remix of her like dancing to
360, and then they put over it. Do you think you just fell out of the coconut tree?
There was the Feminamenon, which I think her team actually posted.
Yeah, so Kamala HQ posted like, one of those like swipe across TikToks where it's loads of different pictures and you're meant to do it in time to the beat, but they put it on Instagram, so you couldn't do that, and they put it as a reel, and it was like a picture of Trump where it goes, and what we really need, and then it was a picture of Kamala, a phenomenon, and then a picture of Trump, oh what, and then a picture of Kamala. She also followed Chapel Roan. Justine Moore on Twitter declared it a meme election. She said Kamala's new campaign Twitter Brat Summer existing in the context and Venn diagram. So Kamala's HQ's Twitter bio is providing context. And then they posted a Venn diagram, which is Biden HQ on one side, Kamala HQ on one side, and then holding Trump accountable in the middle. And I think it's really interesting. Also, like the speed at which Kamala has embraced this. So someone called Alison Herman on Twitter said, Kamala, if you're reading this, do not acknowledge the coconut memes. I repeat, do not acknowledge the coconut memes. The children will turn on you. Which is definitely true. Like, something immediately becomes unfunny as soon as like the person who it's about tries to co-opt it.
Yeah, it's the same as we've been talking about brands doing it. Like, it just immediately stops.
Yeah.
Having the joy in it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, at that point, it's just like, oh, okay. No. But people are still, I feel like basically what we've seen is an audience shift, which is what I was saying to Gina before we started recording this. So everyone who I'd see like sharing Kamala memes and stuff prior to this weekend is basically like Gen Z, or like it was all over TikTok, and it's very like irony pilled or like core pilled. Like it would be like unaesthetic on purpose and like all of this type of stuff. And I already know I'm going to get ripped for that sentence. None of those words are in the Bible. Good. Anyway. But now the people that I'm seeing is like older millennials, dare I say, be like, yeah, slay Queen Kamala. Oh my God, Kamala's marketing is popping off. Blah, 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 blah. Like, it's literally like people in their late 30s, early 40s, which, I'm not being ageist. Yeah. I'm just observing something.
What's happened is that fan cams now exist in a world where you can do a fan cam generator and put as least effort into it as possible. So like the people who aren't as good at the internet can just make one if they want to make one, and they are doing that. And I think like probably a lot of these memes are just probably recycled from that the pre-weekend, and are just like they're just adding that like tinge of making it like political in inverted commas. But I thought it was interesting there's a Vox article by Rebecca Jennings called Can Kamala Harris Meme Her Way into Becoming the President? And it starts being like, for a very long time in politics, the primary question of presidential candidate likability was voters asking themselves, could I have a beer with them? And then she kind of goes on to say, like, now it's changed, like, does this person make a good meme is the new, like,
can I have a beer with them?
Yeah, can I go for a beer with them? And I think that's like where Kamala comes in so as like a really good opposition to Trump, because she can do exactly the same thing as him as being memeified and like not cashing in on it as well. Like not necessarily being in on the joke, but not being so absurdist that like she's not absurdist, but like there's so many different factors to her as a personality that she can be serious as well as doing those things and like be a meme, like still be like someone for the Democrats to rally behind, but can also be like a humorous figure.
I have no idea what you just said.
Like, so she's like, her humour comes outside of what her policies and stuff are. So like when people are making memes about her, they're making memes about times she's been silly, times she's been dancing, like maybe a phrase she said that's crazy, like the coconut tree thing. But they're not really doing that about like who she is as a person or like what her political beliefs are. Whereas like when it was Sleepy Joe and he did that tweet being like, I'm sick, it was like just a bit too like on the nose.
I would disagree with you there. It's exactly the same, because like the coconut tree thing came from a specific speech, and then like We Did It Joe came from them winning the last one. Like I'd say it's not outside of her politics, like it is her politics. I've written in the notes, and this is under the article like Kamala Harris is funny, but what about her politics by James Greig for Dazed, who basically, James says, the image of Kamala as a zany, fun-loving goofball becomes harder to stomach when you see like her policies, aka like her complicity in the genocide in Palestine, and then like so much other stuff, which I'm sure we'll get into. Like basically she's been like she was a prosecutor, so bad. Kind of the same as Keir. Like Keir was a prosecutor, right?
He was a human rights lawyer.
Okay. And then it just really reminded me of Boris Johnson. Like I remember when Boris was way back when, was like doing his first mayor campaign or whatever, and he did that thing where he like went across the zip wire with the flags, and like that's like such an enduring meme, and then like everything he does is like meme worthy. And obviously we know Trump has done it in an American context, but I feel like Boris did it even before that, and Nigel Farage, like all of these politicians really bank on like just being like a goofball, like someone who's like the people's person they can relate to, blah 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 blah. And yeah, the only difference we're seeing is this is now coming from like the Democratic Party, not the Republicans or the Tories or like the far right. But I feel like it's something that Keir also really tried to do, but like was just too lifeless to do it. Like they tried to like go to his house and like find out who he was as a person, and like him banging on about his dad making tools, and like,
oh yeah, finding that picture of him looking like a new romantic.
Yeah, and like Labour doing memes all the time. And I feel like the meme of it all hasn't really been picked up by the left in this country. Like we didn't really vibe with, but again, the same thing. It's like we didn't care about the memes on the Labour TikTok. My mum absolutely lived for them.
Yeah.
So loads of people are calling this the like Gen Z election, but I don't think that's true. I think it's just like, it's making people feel young again.
I agree with you, but I think that's what I was trying to say. Like, she's a personality before she's a politician, and that's like what Nigel Farage and Brat, people buy into that personality with not necessarily caring about like what the politics are, and that's like why Trump has gotten over the line so many like before, and why he's doing it again. Like in the article, it says progressives have finally learned from Trump, who understood that memes, even when they are theoretically unflattering, can help craft the persona that won him the presidency. So like again, like her team and her like picked up on being like, it's worth being the personality first, because before she was like very hated for her politics. Like she was Kamala the cop like 4 years ago, and now she's Kamala the coconut tree. Mamala.
Yeah, so there's a tweet by Zay Squirrel who says, Kamala Harris was such a terrible politician, so widely despised even by the Democratic base that she was forced to quit the primary before a single vote was cast. Now, all these deranged liberals and pseudo-radicals think they can meme her into having charisma, utter insanity. Go look back at the Kamala Harris campaign events ahead of the 2020 primary that forced her to quit before a single vote was cast. She is more of a charisma void than even Hillary Clinton, and this is the person they're rallying around with idiotic online memes. There's no policy, there's not even a rhetorical attempt to address the ongoing Gaza genocide, which Harris has backed 100% and has pledged to continue to back. She's absolutely nothing aside from, well, at least her brain isn't leaking live on camera. And this will be the pitch going forward, just watch. Do you think she's even going to bother with symbolic nods to the pseudo-radical progressives who have already pledged fealty? Fealty? Is that how you say it?
I don't know what fealty is.
No, me either. Of course not. But she'll become even more extreme in her devotion to the Israel lobby because they're the only ones she and the Dem leadership care about. The only thing that might have changed the calculus here is if the Progressive Caucus and the broad left actually asked something in return for their endorsements, but they didn't. They didn't ask for anything. They folded immediately and gave their gleeful endorsements alongside Hillary Clinton and the rest of the Dem leadership. So any leverage they might have has immediately gone, just as it was with Genocide Joe. They call this smart electoral politics. Fuck off, you fucking career scum. Tell them. And with that, we go to a break.
We're back.
No, I think it's such a good point though, and it's something that we saw in our election, and then we're seeing echoed here, is that basically when we've already spoken about it, so we won't get too deeply into it, but we're being encouraged to vote for the lesser of two evils and to back these politicians like wholeheartedly in order to halt like the Tories or Trump, whatever. But I think, I'm not saying people shouldn't vote Kamala, because also it's not really our business to get involved. Like, do what you got to do, American people. Godspeed. But I think what's interesting is we're like a month or so out of election now and having the Labour government, because so many people were being like, oh, vote Labour and then we'll push them to the left. So yesterday the UK government in Parliament voted on removing the child benefit cap, which means that if you have more than 2 kids, you can't get child benefit for them, which is obviously fucked and will affect like disproportionately working class people, because like middle class and upper class people who have more kids can afford to like keep them fed and stuff. I think it was projected that it would like pull over 300,000 children out of poverty, and Labour told the whip to vote against it. There was like 7 Labour MPs that voted in favour of getting rid of the cap, and that was like all of these far left Labour MPs that we were hoping would like push the needle. So that's like Zara Sultana, John McDonnell, Rebecca, I can't remember her last name. Like Diane Abbott tweeted that she would have voted that way, but she literally couldn't get to the vote. And it's like, we're seeing now that the left is just being like destroyed out of the Labour Party. So to expect that like America will be able to elect a Democrat, which is traditionally less left-leaning than even like the left of Labour, like the centre of Labour, it's a fallacy. It's not going to happen. Like, I understand that also America with Trump has like quite a different proposition, I suppose, in terms of like abortion being criminalised, all of the stuff with trans people, like all of these things like are seem much more like pressing, urgent and serious than, but not, I don't know, kind of, yeah, but do you know what I mean? But also, I don't think we should exist under delusion that we can push these major parties into a left-wing space when we can't.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to be put in that position where you have to pick anything to stop Trump, because you're just left in this like the black and whiteness of it all. Like you have to pick one, like the lesser of two evils. But I think it's interesting that tweet that you read out about was kind of like doubling down on Kamala's complicitness on Israel and Palestine, because there's an article in The Guardian by a staffer for the Biden administration who actually left the administration because of Joe Biden's policies on Gaza. And she's written it kind of like this thing being like, I thought about Kamala, and trying to say like there's reports that she wanted to have like a policy on Gaza that was much more humane and was rebuffed by Biden. There's bits where she's saying like I was disappointed with her speech in Selma where she was calling for a ceasefire but only for 6 weeks, but apparently it's because Biden wanted it to be that way and she was trying to push for a more radical point of view. And I think it's interesting that this kind of press is coming out now that Kamala does need that vote to be like this kind of like contingently not actually reported on personal essays to be like, oh, but Kamala behind the scenes is actually like this, like just nobody knows about it.
And it's bullshit. Like if you don't get a politician on the record saying something, they're not going to do it. Like this is what Labour did throughout their whole campaign. They were like, oh, we'll review the child benefit cap when we get in. And then they reviewed it, 3 weeks in, and literally immediately shot down any chance of widening it out. Like these people aren't going to do what we want. Sorry, no offence. And I think the story here is like, not the story here because obviously it's still a real election and like lots of things count on it and it's important to keep Trump out. But it's like everyone's calling this, like the meme election, the youth election. But I feel like also it's important to say that like there's a reason that politicians don't court the youth vote. A, because like they're more liberal, more left-wing usually. And B, because there's usually low turnout in young people. So even though we're saying like, oh, Kamala knows Brat, let's remember everyone, Charlie XX is in her 30s. Everyone she's around is in her 30s. And it's that age group that they'll be going for. Like, the people that are looking to buy homes now to settle down, that are in the job market, that are like paying their health insurance, that are like middle class, middle America people, and I think it just represents like the backlash. So Charlie's had like huge backlash against tweeting that. And I think it kind of represents the disconnect between like the chronically online us and like the fact that she has broken into the mainstream and can speak to mainstream people. Like Kamala's not courting like 10,000 weird girls that listen to this podcast, like no offense, maybe she is a bit, but like she wouldn't have done that unless she knew there was a huge base for it, and the base will be people that aren't like us.
And again, I think it's worth noting that it's not just like Kamala making these decisions, like it's a huge team of staffers who have like seen the way that the American voters vote and like the people that they need to target, like you said, and then like adjusting based on that. Like they've seen what worked for Trump, so they're doing that. They've seen what didn't work for Biden, so they're going the other way. Like they want to, I don't know, like I hate the way that it's like Kamala's so Brat when it's just like Kamala and the team of fucking however many people
Yeah.
who are pushing her through.
I mean, that's just politics though, isn't it? Like, and especially in America where you vote for the president, we don't have the same electoral system as here. But I also think it's like everyone's kind of just catering to the lowest common denominator, which is something else that we talked about in, I can't remember which podcast episode, and it's like they know that they can grab so much attention from doing memes rather than like talking about policy, and like it just still keeps us in the dark on the things that are actually important about how like our countries will be run or whatever. I know this isn't our country. And on the flip side of it, I feel like some people have I mean, the way the story's developed, like, okay, fair enough to give Charlie some, like, shit for tweeting it, considering how it's been, like, adopted by Kamala so much. But also, as an artist that has always existed in, like, a termly online, irony-pilled lexicon, why are you now expecting her to, like, not still do that? And I thought it was funny how, like, immediately we can recognise in our peer groups like ironic Kamala memes, but we can't recognise when a pop star does it. And I think it just shows the disconnect again between like the people and celebrity, and the widening gap between how we view celebrity culture and how we view everyone else.
Yeah, and I think the thing with irony posting is that it generally ends up getting in front of people who will see it earnestly as well.
100%.
Like there's so many people who will have seen that Charlie XCX tweet and been like, oh my god, like Charlie's on side. And there's so many people who will see these memes like being like, Mamala, like we need a girl to run the country, Femininomenon, and they'll generally be like, yay. They'll generally be like, woohoo. I agree.
If you told Chapel Roan that Kamala Harris would be posting her song in a year's time for the presidential election, this time last year, I think her head would blow off.
It would have blown mine off.
Yeah, when we were doing the feature, if we knew.
Funny we know.
In a year's time.
But it's weird as well, like feeling like in the position that we are, where we just kind of like just come out the other side of this happening.
Yeah.
To now look at it like unfolding in America.
It's very like, we were you once.
Yeah. Old man shakes fist at clouds.
But then I also think it's so interesting, yeah, because obviously like people that live in the UK, it can seem we're like an important country, quote unquote, whatever. But then seeing how things literally escalate and progress so much more when they're uptaken by like US politics, and the US and like the internet is so like dominated towards America, which is obviously a really bad thing. And to see how that can be like all encapsulating. Like I don't think I saw any Americans tweeting about the UK election apart from like maybe one person, like Ashley Reese, because she's lived in London.
Yeah, literally, apart from maybe like people talking about Nigel Farage or something.
Yeah.
Like, being like, wow, look at this alt-right man, looks so much like a British man. Like, whereas like when we engage with American politics, I feel like we just know way more about it.
I saw a good tweet that was like, let me find it. It was Claire Schaffer saying, I could be totally wrong, but all I see in the Kamala memes is Gen Z nihilism over a lack of choice in their political system, not sincere standing of a politician. The former is also worthy of critique, but let's not conflate it with the latter, which I think kind of sums it all up, because yeah, it's what I was saying. The former, we see Gen Z nihilism posting, and now because it's kind of entered mainstream cultural discourse, we're seeing the latter, which is sincere standing of a politician, like people putting it on the stories being like, Kamala's team get it. Kamala voters get it. Like, on the Femininomenon Instagram, I thought there'd be like so many comments like slating it, but they're all literally like, we need a Kamalanomenon, like literally getting right on board there.
I think people are wanting it as well. Like people have been desperate for it since Bernie and since Jeremy Corbyn's run. Like the Trump fans have always had Trump like since then.
Yeah.
Whereas like we haven't had that democratic figure where we can actually like rally, well not us, but where people can like meme them to death and like rally behind them. And they're like, wait, and like have this like dogged, like, we need to do this, we're going to do this feeling about it. Like people have been lacking that, they've been missing it, like that political figure.
I mean, it did exist with Hillary in 2016. I put in my notes that like someone tweeted that the Charlie XCX Kamala's Brat tweet is this election's Hillary goes on Broad City moment. And I remember for the Hillary campaign, like La Tigra made a song. Lena Dunham was obviously doing so much.
That fucking Madonna tweet.
I don't know it.
Oh, she did them both as like little animated figures, but she gave herself her and Hillary massive batties. Fucking unreal.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
Madonna did a tweet being like, I'm with her.
Yeah.
And then part of it was like an animation, like they looked like like just little figures of themselves.
Yeah.
With like bobbleheads, but she also gave them both massive asses, and they were like dancing to like single ladies together.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like we have seen this, but obviously the internet is just like, it's like that, but times 10. Like we're in an absurdist era for like internet content. We're in like a nonsensical era for internet content, whereas like the Hillary stuff was obviously all done in earnest, which makes it cringe. But like now people are aware of the cringe, so they're just like shit posting.
Yeah. People are just engagement baiting as well. They're like, what's the like funniest
what can I tweet
meme
about
I can make
Kamala?
about the coconut tree? Like, I'll put Kim Petras in the mix, and then I'll get so much fucking likes and views on it.
Yeah, I saw a tweet like, it's her time with the coconut video for Kim
The
Petras.
new national anthem.
And with that, we're done.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you, Ione.
Thank you to Siham for the research and Olivia for editing, and all of you for listening. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.